Hi there, thanks for joining me today. I have a flip through today of, I know I always say it, but this really is one of my favorite journals that I've ever created, and I knew it was going to be a good one as soon as I found this book a while back. It's a really old book. It was published in 1897, and it was in horrible, horrible condition. And I had this feeling that it would make a terrific junk journal, and it has come through with glorious shining colors. So I have a little sunny side flip through, and so thank you for joining me today. As ever, many of my books end up having a nickname as I'm working on them because I talk to them while I'm working on them. And this book, although the book itself is a biography of William Morris, the artist William Morris, who's made all those beautiful patterns that we love on fabrics and wallpapers and wall hangings and stained glass windows and tapestries. What a talented, talented man. And so the book was a biography of his life, and it was printed a year after he had died. But if you follow along on my videos as I'm making my journals, you'll see that the original spine was absolutely falling apart, and the person who was trying to rescue this spine just made a complete mess of it. I'm glad they loved their book, but the spine was just a wreck. So I had to make an entirely new spine for it. So this is nice and strong, and I really love how it turned out. It's mostly plain. There is a blank label here for you to put whatever you like on that label, and there's a little label that says record. And then it has William Morris here. This is from the original text block. And then just a random sticker there with a number as if it was on somebody's, home library shelf. And the back here, I've just added some antique lace. This book is full of antique lace and old antique, all kinds of stuff. It is chock full of really cool old things. I really went to town on this book because I felt like it deserved it. And it's a big book. It has 190 pages in it. We're going to measure it in a second. But I just added some little stickers and stamps on the back, and my own sticker that I put on the journals I create with my signature, and it says 2023 here. So, and then the front as well, antique lace here. And I wanted this to be more than just, I didn't want it to become a journal about William Morris. I wanted it to be almost a romantic kind of Victorian all sorts book that was still in my style of rather peculiar and curious and unusual. And I think I pulled that off very nicely. I was stumped because the front cover, when I remove this, you'll see, is very plain, but I still wanted to honor it and leave it be. And I wanted to figure out a way to make a nice front cover, but still be able to see the original front cover of this book. And we did it nicely by putting, this is an actual antique cabinet card. And we know who these are. I'm going to slide it off. I have attached it this way in the book. But the new owner, if they want, really could tie it around the whole book and hold it shut when they're done. It would be an effective way if you find you've got an alligator mouth when you're done filling it with your things. But for the time being, it's really nice just like this. It lets you open and close your book with no problem. And fortunately, the previous owner wrote who this lovely couple is. And they lived quite near me. Even though it was my friend who gave me this card, and she lives 2 hours away, somehow or other, they found their way back to this area of the world where they started from. So what I've done, here's the original cover, and like I said, it's really nice. I love the gold on it and the title, William Morris, His Art, Writings, and Public Life. And it's even got, the pattern is hard to see, but it's got a pattern of one of his famous, it's almost like a damask kind of pattern. And it's in a turquoisey kind of green. I don't know if that's showing up. But with this cabinet card that I created, there is a book plate there. You can remove this and write whatever you like on it if you don't want it to say journal. You can flip it over and write whatever you like. But for the time being, of course, I've flipped it up and there we go. Now on the other side, you'll see here that somebody at some point wrote Louie Smart and Oscar Scott Matchett, and it says here about 1905 or 6 and a question mark. And I was able to find them online, and they're buried, I guess, about 45 minutes north of me. They had one daughter named Jean, so I wonder if this is Jean's writing, and Jean never married. So perhaps Jean made this book, and then because she never married, a niece or nephew at some point said, "What's this?" You know, somebody at some point had to go through Jean's estate. But I wanted this to still be visible, so I added an envelope, a beautifully lace tea-dyed envelope from Nancy, and then I added a bit more. It needed to be grungier, and a little bit of a Victorian stamp there that says "Forget Me Not." And then on the inside here, what I've done is, this is actually the registration for Louie and Oscar's wedding. And her name was Sarah Louise Smart. But in several of the places that I found her through Ancestry, which is a great site if you're a member, she was known through her family as Louie. So hence why I've been calling this Louie, Oscar, and William, because it felt like there was a threesome in this book. And somehow or other, Dante Rossetti and his wife find their way into it as well, because Rossetti and William Morris were very good friends, and Rossetti was having an affair, lifelong affair, with William Morris's wife. So many of the paintings you see from Rossetti are actually William Morris's wife. She modeled for many of his famous paintings. Anyhow, so you can see here where it says Oscar Scott Matchett and Sarah Louise Smart and when they got married. And so I was able to print that off because copyright date has expired and it's free. And then I also just included a little photo in case you were interested of, here's where they're buried. And their daughter Jean is buried with them. So if that kind of thing creeps you out, then do with it what you will. No worries. But this sort of thing is very romantic. But I like that the three of them are still together. So that's on the back of the cabinet card that ties to the front of this cover. And I like how that turned out. So inside, oh, let's measure because this book is huge. It is 7.5 by 11 by 1.5. That's a big book. And like I said, it's 190 pages of varying sizes, as is typical for me. On the inside here, I've used some of William Morris's paper. I have a book of wrapping paper of his that I found at a thrift store, as I did with almost everything in this book is from secondhand sources. My junk journals are made from junk, other people's junk. This was from the original text block. I aged it to look older and to sort of look like a book plate. And I love how this book has turned out. And because it was, I kept calling it Louie, Oscar, and William, I found this picture in one of my 1888 Girls' Own annuals, so I fussy cut it out because it felt like it was Louie and Oscar going for a walk with William, and he was saying, "See, here's one of my favorite patterns that I created." I do that sort of thing when I talk to my books while I work on them. So I've written in pencil, just tiny, down here, 1888 for that fussy cut, but you can erase that if you like. And I did a little stenciling in behind that I think looks pretty. I've incorporated quite a few of the original text block pages back into the book, but in addition to that, when it goes to its new home, there were so many pictures and pages that I couldn't use that I will be sending them along with the book to the new owner with a little bulldog clip. And these are the offcuts of the wrapping paper that I used to make the end papers. So that will be going with the book. So there he is himself, William Morris. What a distinguished looking eccentric gentleman. And as ever, I love keeping the original first page whenever possible, especially if it tells you the year that it was published, 1897. So it's an old book. On this page, it's always nice to have a pocket near the front of your book, and this is a nice big pocket, and I've used a page out of a Sears Roebuck reprint catalog and then aged it. And inside I've tucked a few things. This is from a book that I found of paper dolls, a reprint, but I aged it to make her look old, and I think she's sweet. It's the kind of thing that pharmacies used to give away for free as advertising. So if you're wondering what all this writing is on the back, that's actually what was on the back of the original ones that would have gone out to customers as just little samples. And a little bookmark. This was made from a box of vintage little churchy missed you this week, missed you this Sunday kind of cards that I found, but the box was just as pretty as the cards, so I made little bookmarks out of all the sides and fronts and tops of the box. So I tucked that there, and here's a vintage statement that I tea-dyed, and you can see it says 1900s there, so it's definitely vintage, but who knows when. And some more antique lace here, and a little stamping. Page out of an address book, and it's M for Morris. On this side, I've done a flip up of some lace, and then underneath there's just an unusual gentleman here. Maybe it's Dante Rossetti, who knows? And it's a pocket, and I don't like leaving pockets empty. This little piece here is from the original text block, and I just did a little bit of collaging on it. And again, sometimes I lose track of where I find the pieces of paper that I use to make tuck spots, and I keep a box of just my offcuts and off tears, so who knows. but he's sort of hiding in behind there. And this beautiful tea-dyed paper is what I call my double tea dye. When I splash tea on it first, let it dry, and then into the bath it goes, so that you get this really nice extra markings on the paper. I've used what I can of the original spine in other ways throughout this book. Again, just to sort of give homage to how beautiful this book was, even though it was falling absolutely apart. So this whale tail tab was part of the original spine. You'll notice that it matches the cover perfectly because it was the same material. And just added a little bit of lace and word snippet. I had to Frankenstein it. It's a big book. And this paper actually came from an old ledger book that I found out in Prince Edward County. A little tuck spot here because I Frankensteined it. It was a little long, so there's one in every single signature. How many signatures did we do? I believe there's 7 in this book. And it's got a hidden hollowback spine there. So we should have covered that at the beginning, but we're doing it now. So you can tell from the top looking down wherever there's an original folio in here, because there's gold on the edge of the paper, which I rather like. Let me see how many I should know. Yes, there's 7 signatures in this book. So there will be 7 of these in various places throughout the book. And a little tuck spot. I found this in a book, so I've backed it with some tea-dyed paper to make a journaling card and just tucked it in there. A little bit of that antique lace here and some ribbons sewn on. And again, this is from the original text block, and it's one of William Morris's designs. This is from a vintage book, and I just liked it, and I just thought it fit in here. As I said, it's in many ways it's an all sorts book. There's no rhyme or reason to a lot of the things that are in it, but it gives extra room for journaling in. This is from an original page from the text block, and a little paper ruffle up here made from an old book. On this side, I've just done a collage of some lace and some fabric, and I hand sewed it on. Down in this corner, I did a little stamping. This bird and other little birds that have been stenciled, you're going to find them in funny little places throughout this book, so watch for them. They'll be in here, and that's a little bit of leftover lace from this that I found recently. I love this lace. It just looks so cool, and the color, that was the color it arrived. So I tied that in with some really old silk ribbon, and just simply by punching holes with my awl and tying it in a bow. Another page out of the original text block, and then here's how you can give yourself journaling space when you've got a printed page by gluing on some interesting blank paper so that you can write on it. This is from one of my Girls' Own annuals, so it's probably 1889 here. I saved the date. So that's from June 8th, 1889 for that illustrations there that I fussy cut. And I thought that gentleman looked like the same one from the front here. So this is just out of an old hymnal from 1897. This is from a single volume encyclopedia, the kind that they make that are almost like a dictionary, and it's from the 1940s. A little fabric ruffle here, and some sewing and a ribbon. I love when papers have the numbers still up in the corner. This little wildflower folio here was from a book from 1940. And again, the odd little tuck spot because the paper was Frankenstein together. So I created a journaling card from an old, who knows, magazine, newspaper, not sure anymore. Lots of sewing, lots of messy sewing here and there. I believe this is a painting from Rossetti, and I believe that is William Morris's wife. Here actually is one of those cards. Remember the bookmark I said I made from the box, that I found a box full of cards? And this is one of the cards that was in the box. Isn't that pretty with the gold and it's embossed? It's just really, really pretty. So I tucked that in there. You can put it wherever you like. I had fun collaging all around the edge with some papers and doilies and lace, and I just love the way that turned out. On this page I had a lot of fun. This I learned from Mackenzie K on TikTok. So it's a tuck spot. This is from the original text block, and I turned it into a journaling card. So it's a tuck spot. But as well, this can be journaled on, and I had fun just adding some interesting things. There's a little word snippet that says delightful, and then it can also be journaled on the back. So I just love how that turned out. You're going to see lots of ivories and lots of greens in this book, which are some of my favorite colors to work with. Again, another whale tail tab made from the fabric that was the original spine, with a bit of lace and a charm with a little heart on it on a bulb pin. This is from the original text block, and it's one of William Morris's tapestries, I believe. And I think it's one of the few full color plates that were in that text block. The rest were black and white, not many color ones. Some tea-dyed steno paper and a little rusty paper clip. And then this is a movable tab, but it's also a vintage film. I'm having a brain cramp. You know what this is. And if you look carefully, it's a little baby asleep in a crib. And then on the other side, I didn't want that to be empty. So it's just got it's got a butterfly and some interesting other little collage-y type things. And it can be moved wherever you want. It doesn't have to stay on that page. I love the way those work, and they hold things, but I put the rusty paper clip there anyways. I sewed some vintage buttons onto this lace here, just for a change. I haven't used buttons in a while, and I thought it's time to use some buttons from the original text block. And again, this is all William Morris. What a talented man. On this side shows you another way to create journaling areas for yourself, even if a page has printing on it. So this is from an old book that has obviously dragonflies on it. And I made a tab. Again, this fabric is from the original spine, that green fabric. I just put a number 5 on it. And then in behind are a few pages for journaling on. And it just makes for an interesting journaling space. And some more unusual pages that are just fun for flipping through. This is from a vintage typing manual, and I threaded, it was from a coil bound book, so I threaded some silk embroidery ribbon through the holes in it. And there's one of those stenciled birds flying right there. And a little bit of stenciling there. Love those numbers up in the corner. Can't be a junk journal without a bit of Edith in it. This is out of a book that I have, and I just loved it. And put some tea-dyed paper on the back, and it makes for a little journaling card to put into the little tuck spot there on the Frankenstein paper. Again, out of an old newspaper. I can't remember. I made this a while back, so you're going to have to watch all my old videos to find out the year for that, because I didn't write it down. It's old. And then I sewed it in by hand. I wanted some of it to look like somebody actually took the time, in this case it was me, to sew the lace on there. A little tuck spot here. This is another fussy cut from one of my Girls' Own annuals. This one's from 1888, so I've written it in pencil. And I've just tucked a lace doily back there, so you can use that somewhere in the book if you want, as you're working in it. And again, an original page out of the text block. Tons and tons of journaling space in this book. Even though I had a lot of fun, and there's a lot of me in this book, there's so much room for the new owner. See all this? That's all room for you. I love all these oddly sized and shaped pages. This came from Happy Mail from my friend Anna, I believe. Again, more of the fabric from the spine. I wasn't kidding when I tried to make the most I could out of that marvelous spine. It's such a shame that they didn't leave it alone. I think I could have fixed it, but because they tried to glue this horrible tape to it, it was just ruined. And a little price tag from somewhere on some thrifty fabric or lace that I found, and a bit of cheesecloth on there. This is one of my movable tabs that I love making, that are that stick out at odd angles so that it makes the book look like it's stuffed full of interesting things, which it is, and which it will be stuffed even more when you get done with it. So I just put a little bit of tea-dyed paper in there. And a little robin on a nest, and again, I tend to do 5 a lot. It's my lucky number, so I take that artistic license when I'm making my journals to put 5s in the books. On this side, there's a little, I believe isn't that a goldfinch, I think, or a warbler. Anyhow, and I played with my gold gilding wax on this key, and I love how it gives it a bit of dimension, and I think that turned out really nice. And that can be moved anywhere in the book, anywhere you want, and you can tuck things underneath it. So this little piece of tea-dyed paper could go under it on that side. They're really handy and really usable. On this side of this page here came from a 1911 gardening book as well. And I just love the illustrations in this book. I've already used the cover to make a journal, but I still had pages left over from inside, which I'm enjoying using up. On this side of the Frankenstein paper, I did some glue and tear, that technique where you use a glue stick and then you tear around the edges. Again, can't remember. I think this was from Nancy. She gave me a whole bunch of magazines, I think. Please forgive me if it was someone else and you're saying, no, it was me at your screen. I apologize. And then this little picture I saved from a fussy cut out of a book, so I made it into a journaling card and made it look like a carte de visite with this old couple, and maybe it's William and his wife, or maybe it's Louie and Oscar. Who knows? They didn't write it on the back, so we don't know. Out of an old magazine, an advertisement, and some faux cellophane tape. I just sewed some interesting paper along the edge there with some messy sewing and a little ticket. This is also can be a tuck spot there, so I don't have, let's put something in there. I hate leaving things empty, so that can hold paper for you. Here's from the original text block. I believe these were designs for tapestries that he made. And again, as I said, very few color ones in this book. I mean, it was old. It was 1897. So most of them were in black and white, but still beautiful and still worthy of being re-included into this book. I love the way that tea dyeing came out. Original text block. So these are drawings from William. And again, more of my, I just love when there's layered, unusual papers. This is from the original text block. This paper has leaves and grass, and it's also a tip out, and there's one of our little birds right there. In this little tuck spot on this Frankenstein paper, I've made one of my faux old postcards from a scanned French postcard. And so I just tucked her in there. And you can use that to journal on. See what I mean? How this book is just chock full of things. This is from a book from 1968 on butterflies of England. And then I added some of Nancy's beautiful lace tea-dyed paper on either side. So lots of journaling space on either side, and this really pretty. I love how that center spread turned out. On this side of that natural paper with the grass and leaves in it is one of those little peekaboo places that I just love doing now that I learned from Anna. And there's two little bunnies having a little dance down there, and they're in behind in that little window. Again, tons of room for you. I can't believe that I went so crazy in this book and was still able, it's so big, I was able to leave lots of room for you. More drawings from the original text block, more tea-dyed paper, and some of that old lace. I found this really old safety pin, and that aging, I didn't do that. That's not vinegar and salt and peroxide. That's Mother Nature and Father Time made that pin so stunningly beautiful. And then I just sewed a little flower up there. Another page out of the original text block. And another home, apparently, where they lived. A little Beatrix Potter in here. I believe that's Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. This is out of a book of music that I had. It's from 1927, and it just got thrown in as well. This is from Reckoner, before they had computers and calculators, and it's from 1916. This is from a ledger book from the 1940s, and somebody's writing there. A book on how to write in calligraphy that I tea-dyed. And that's from the little town of Orono. And that's actually where I think Alice found this book, or it might have been Nancy who found it. We had a fun day that day. And again, one of those little birds that I stenciled there throughout the book. Just keep your eye out and you'll see them. In this little pocket, I've got a picture of her fussy cut from a book, tea-dyed paper on the back, and a little half bit of a label. I must have fussy cut this out of my Girls Own Annual because it says 1888 on it. So she's tucked in there, and a little tab up here of a ticket, and it's the same on both sides, and it's green. And here I've just added a little Victorian rose fussy cut and some leaves that I found at a thrift store. Now this is a cool tuck spot, and I forget who I learned it from, but this is an actual original page from the text block, and it's just the way I folded it creates lots of little places to tuck all kinds of little pieces of written on papers. And then I added in some collaging in behind onto one of the original text blocks. I love how this page turned out. I think that is just really, really pretty, and really pleased with that. More tea-dyed paper, more original page from the text block, and a little ruffle out of paper with a vintage or antique little lady. And apparently that dress was $1.50 to purchase, so I bet I got it out of a Sears Roebuck reprint. Oh, this pocket here is holding the Two Nanas bookmark. So on the Two Nanas bookmark, I used some more of the William Morris paper, and then I usually just sign a little thank you with my little sunshine there. And then a page from out of Through the Looking Glass, just a random page. As I said, it's sort of in many ways, it's an all sorts book. Little tab up here that is movable, and it's just got some collaged lace and fabric and a ticket folded in half, and it can hold papers, and it can be moved anywhere you want in the book. A little collaging down here. This is from the original text block. William Morris did that. And a little butterfly tab a la Nick the Booksmith. This center spread came from a book I was able to save. The book itself was mostly destroyed from water damage, but I saved the end papers, and that's out of The Wonderful World of Winnie the Pooh, I believe. And I was able to marry together the two end paper, the flyleaves of the end papers, and recreate the entire map. And I just love how that turned out. I think it's really, really pretty, and the colors match the theme of this book so well. So you'll see all the characters there. Rabbit and Kanga, and there's Pooh over there, and Owl's house, and Christopher Robin's there. There's Eeyore. On this page, I thought she rather looked like one of the characters from one of Rossetti's paintings. And this is out of a really old book from 1888. It's so tiny, isn't it? And so I just tucked that into that little spot. So that's really, really old, that little book that I found. And again, just some fun, messy sewing, the double processed tea-dyed paper. And again, there's our little friend flitting his way through our journal. And again, I found a way to make a tab out of some of the leftover spine. And I added a bulb pin with a little charm from necklaces that I find and break up and use to dangle off the edges of pages. I love this lace sewn on here. Lots of lace in here. And then we come to the end of the book. So this little bird is on his way. And there's a picture from Rossetti, St. Cecilia, the Palace of Art, it says. And there's just room for journaling on that. And so I tucked it in here. Now here's something I had to do. It was the only part of the spine that was savable. It was the lining from the spine. And if you look at it carefully, you can see the imprint where it said William Morris, his art, writings, and public life. So that was from the original spine. So I did my best to honor this book and save as much as I could and incorporate it back into the book. And some pages with some artwork. These are original text from the text block, and I made a pocket out of that lace that I'm now in love with that I found at a thrift store. And so I just tucked them in there. And then down here on one of my thriftings, was it Nancy who gave these to me? Nancy, I think you gave these to me, all these letters. So I added some gilding wax. And since I've been calling it Louie, Oscar, and William, there's an L, an O, and a W just pinned to the end of this, this lace here. And then again, as I said on the back, there's just a little collage of some stickers and my name with my signature there. So that was quite a flip through, but it was a big book, thickness-wise and size-wise. This is a huge journal, and I just love how it turned out. I love that I was able to save this writing. I thought I was going to have to glue it to the front, and I wanted to be able to save this and save this, and thank goodness we found a way. And it can just get tied on just to the front cover if you like, or if when you're done and the book is full, tie it around the whole book and tie it closed when you're all done, if that's what you wish. So, or else you can remove the ribbon and tuck it in the book if you want. So, thanks for joining me today. This book will be available in my Etsy shop. I'll list down below in the description the day and the time that it will be available in my Etsy shop. And if you're interested in it, I hope you'll take a moment and go over and visit and see if maybe this journal, Louie, Oscar, and William, maybe this is a journal for you that would interest you. And if you enjoyed this flip through, I hope you'll take a second and click like and maybe subscribe to my channel. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye.